On yesterday, we did a lot. We had a panel discussion dealing with the whole question of anti-colonial struggle for democracy. But we opened up recognizing and acknowledging the attack that was made by the federal government, the FBI, on the Uhuru movement, the African People's Socialist Party, and helping, hopefully, people to understand the relationship between that attack on me, on the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement and this school. In fact, one of the allegations that they put forth in an indictment that they made of a Russian national who lives in Russia, who they claim was leading me, that somehow I was working without registering as an agent of this foreign country. They indicted this man, and they allege, one of the allegations is that he was responsible for campaigns that we ran right here in this city where we are broadcasting from now, St. Petersburg, Florida. And then we had an extraordinary campaigns in 2017 and 2019, raising critical questions. And so this was one of the allegations made in the indictment that I have not yet been formally indicted for being a part of some criminal behavior. And one of the things that they mentioned was that the campaign electoral campaign that we participated in 2017 and 19, that we raised the question of reparations, that it was like the Russians who influenced us to say reparations. Well, the whole history of our struggle as a people and the whole history of the party and the Uhuru movement, of course, belied that. The fact that we've got 141 cities in which white people are organizing for reparations on a daily basis belied that. And then, of course, a member of the steering committee of the coalition who did come to participate in the school on today, Cam Howard, that's what his work is. That's what brought him into politics, more or less dealing with the issue of reparations. So this notion that somehow I'm working for the Russians because we say reparations, if in fact there was a connection to be made, maybe I'm working for Cam Howard. You know, but he ain't paying me a penny for doing it, you know, but it's just nonsense. So we talked about that, just how nonsensical that was. And we had great participation. We had comrades, we talked about that in the history. We had to mention the history, what brought the coalition into existence, because it wasn't magic. And you know, this is Easter, and Comrade Charles Barron is working really hard. One time I heard him snitching on me. I thought it was, you know, I don't know exactly who he was talking about, saying, forgive him, Father, because he knows not what he's doing, right? And because he's religious and I'm not. But in many ways, I guess we do. I guess it is significant that this is Easter. Because Charles works very hard to raise the dead, and I do a lot of that too. You understand? So we work hard at raising the dead, and but Charles Barron, part of this anti-colonial struggle for democracy, and one thing that made him important to this meeting, and what I was trying to say on yesterday, that this did not just pop up. The coalition didn't just pop up. The fact is that the coalition was a part of a project of the African People's Socialist Party. And the party has been busily working for 50 years to complete the revolution of the 1960s, because, you know, while I'm the enemy today in a particular way, they've been doing this to me for 60 years. I mean, now it's the Russians, but I don't know what it was in 1966 when they attacked me, in 1960s and 70s and 80s and all this other time, but now it's the Russians. But The thing is that they succeeded in a military defeat of our revolution. They killed Malcolm, they killed Martin Luther King, they killed Fred Hampton. They slaughtered in 1960, by 1968, something like 30 members, more than 30 members of the Black Panther Party had been killed throughout this country. 1969, the FBI declared that the Black Panther Party was the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States. 1969 is when they raided these Africans in New York. The Black Panther 21 trial happened in 1969. That's the same year they killed Fred Hampton. That's the same year they attacked the Black Panther Party office in Los Angeles. That's the same year they initiated SWAT programs out of LA to deal with Black people who just want to be free. They weren't raiding bank robbers or kidnappers or something like that. Just Black people just want to be happy, just want happiness, and just want a return of the resources that's been stolen from us. That's what the whole concept of reparations is. But the problem they got, if they talk about reparations, it's limitless what they owe us and what they owe other people. You know, like there wouldn't be a so-called America if it weren't for the stolen land of the indigenous people and the stolen labor of African people. And we're going to keep saying it. And they don't have enough flashbang grenades that they can use against us and enough unindicted or indicted things that they can take away from that. You see, I mean, so Charles, you know, so we wanted to make that point. I thought it was really important that we're trying to pull everything back together because they had scattered all of our forces. They had killed leaders, destroyed organizations, scattered members of the organization. So people out there sometimes trying to do work, but found that no connection, no ideological thing that we were tethered to as it had been in the 1960s. So we worked hard, not just to build the party, not just to build the Uhuru movement, but to pull the whole struggle of African people for self-determination against colonialism back together, to put it back on the trajectory. That's what's brought us here. That's why we created the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. That's why there are 18 different organizations right now part of this, and that influence, and the influence goes much further than this, just in terms of now the movement is coherent. It doesn't unite on every question, but everybody knows we're fighting against colonialism, fighting for self-determination. That's something that we brought back onto the scene after they had us running around fighting to make white people like us, so-called anti-racism and stuff like that. So that's what this coalition, it came together. And then we used every form because they would, if they could, they want to deny us access to a democratic process, you see. But we fought and died for the democratic space that we enjoy. They didn't give it to us. They didn't just stop lynching Black people in the streets and hanging us on trees because they said, well, we got to change your heart. It's the struggle of Black people and united with the struggles of peoples around the world that forced them to at least look like they were offering us some kind of democratic space. So we're not surrendering that democratic space, but if they would attack me, they would bomb my house, they would do all this stuff, and they want to drive us underground. They want to take this democratic space from us and have us prematurely engaging them in something that is doomed if we don't have some other stuff together. And masses of people have not begun to embrace the struggle of Black people to be free, including Black people ourselves. In terms of the strategy that we developed as a party, the top thing is to win Black people, win our own people to the position of political independence, that we have to be free. You ain't gonna be free unless Black people say yes. You understand? That's the way. So we didn't say, let's go out and pass out guns and do all this thing. Win the people, win the people. The people are central to everything. And you don't win the people by yelling from afar. You engage with the people. You get involved in these communities. You build organizations. You build structures. You do stuff that people can engage in changing their conditions of existence. And as the people change the world, the people themselves become changed. You understand? That's how change happens. So this is how we took it on, and we ain't gonna let them drive us underground. So you can unindict my ass if you want to, but the thing is, you ain't driving me underground. And if you lynch me, it's gonna be a public lynching, and the whole world will see you do it. They'll know why you did it. And even if I die, the movement will become stronger as a consequence of that. Yeah, so they can't say we're attacking you because you build basketball courts for Black people in poor communities where they don't have them. Because you created programs for these Africans who you got in these concentration camps that they call prisons, so that they can come out of there. And then they can learn culinary arts, and they can be employed, and they can learn how to set up their own businesses. They can't say that we're attacking you because you have created housing for these folk once they get out of prison in St. Louis. They can't say that's why. They can't say we're attacking you because you participated in building a radio station, a Black radio station, after they've done everything to take us off the air that we've done that. They can't say that's why we're doing it. They can't say that they're attacking us because there are white people working in 141 cities in this country. Think about that. Talking about reparations, doing reparations work. People are getting reparation victories and don't even know why the hell it's happening because they don't see 141 cities and white people working for reparations. We've created, the basketball court costs $150,000, $60,000. That's reparations money, much of it paid by white people who you don't even see. Reparations is at work right now. That's the problem that they got. They can't say that's why we're attacking you. Say we're attacking you because Russians told you to do something, that's what you did. You understand? So political activity, they will criminalize it because they can't in 2022, it's a bit harder to say we're doing it to you just because you're Black, just because you're being free. That ain't why we're doing it. We know we used to lynch you because you were Black. We used to shoot you in the streets because you were Black. We used to do all kinds of horrible things, but that ain't why we're doing it now. We lynch you, we shoot you in the streets, not because you're Black, but because you work for the Russians. So we had that discussion. And then we had Comrade Charles Barron. What's really valuable about his participation is because, and he'll talk to you about this before he leaves. I wish we had passed out some of the information they brought with him on yesterday. This is Easter Sunday. And people forgot, Comrade Charles, that Jesus said what? He said, let the dead bury the dead. But so they ain't here today. They're engaging in public funerals of some certain sorts. But Comrade Charles, this brother does work. You understand? I mean, he ain't just some politician who ruled the crest of his Blackness because Black people want somebody, a face. He's not a Barack, what's his name, a Jamal? No, Barack Hussein Obama. No, just a Black face, who nobody had heard of in terms of his real political work. And here you got Barron, who is in office, who's created incredible institutions for African people in the oppressed sector and then ended gentrification. And not only, he has reverse gentrification going on in Brooklyn where he is. Used to be this many percentage of white people there driving out Black people, and now you got this many, they're disappearing almost. And it's so unusual that people say, I saw 6 white people in your district. And he said, yeah, they was asking for directions, how to get out. But so Barron participated, that's what I'm talking about. And you look at somebody like Jesse Todd, who was here, participated in this discussion on the anti-colonial struggle for democracy, been fighting most of his life, over there in St. Louis, Missouri, struggling for Black people, the most oppressed sector of Africa. He's stone working class brother. Been in the movement for almost forever. Don't talk like no politician, don't look like no politician, don't act like no politician, and working for the people all the time. He was there, and the thing is concrete work. You had Zaki Baruti, who been in the trenches for something like 40 years or more in St. Louis. Every issue of police violence, every issue of oppression, attack on Black people, Zaki Baruti's been there. In fact, he's one of the person who opened the door when we wanted to go into St. Louis in 2014 after they killed Mike Brown. Zaki is one of those forces who opened the door. He didn't act like some people saying, we don't want nobody else to come in here or something. That he opened the door, made it possible. We had Comrade Ajamu Baraka, and many people know Ajamu Baraka because he ran for vice president on the Green Party ticket, and has been, quite articulate, doing political work for a long period of time. I was talking to him on yesterday, I think, and he was saying that he's been around for a long time with organizations that I'm familiar with and things like that. And then, of course, there was the incredible Akile Anayi, who made her presentation. She wasn't here present because she's recovering from COVID. But Akile is a red, black, and green diaper baby. You understand? Yeah, she grew up in the movement. Her daddy was in the movement. Her uncle was in the movement. And so, she grew up in the movement, and she is the face of the movement, and is going to be the face of the movement going forward. And she is one of the unindicted co-conspirators too. So they're talking about putting her in prison. So it was a great discussion on yesterday dealing with anti-colonial struggle for democracy, and Akile talked about the struggles that we went through when we ran these campaigns. And I just want to mention to you, they don't want us to participate in the electoral process. They always complain, black people don't come out and vote, they don't want us to vote. That's why they fight against putting anything on the ballot that we would vote for, that would bring us out. If you put freedom on the ballot, I guarantee you, you'll have black people not banging the doors down. In fact, that's why we died and fought for the vote, because we thought it meant freedom. And once they, as they were giving us the vote, they were killing the forces that were talking about freedom, like Malcolm, like Martin Luther King, like Fred Hampton, destroying those organizations. So the only thing you had left to go to was the Democratic Party. Democratic Party is not a revolutionary organization. It's not a freedom fighting organization. Never has been, never will be. And so now you have nothing to vote for. And so black people don't go vote, and they say that black people are so stupid, so pathetic, so I forgot the term that they use that means that we won't participate. We will participate once we got something to participate for, and that's what they're afraid of. That's why they hated Akile. That's why they hate this school where we putting reparations on the ballot. Put reparations on the ballot. Put reparations on the ballot. Put black community control of the police on the ballot. Put black community control of education on the ballot. That's never been on the ballot before, but this school brings it and puts it on the ballot. And not only we put that on the ballot, we put that on the ballot, and then we organize through the school a process to teach people, if those suckers that you have elected and voted for, or did, whether you voted for them or not, and they double cross us, they treat the community bad. We want to teach you how to take them out of office. So we have this process of recall. We want to teach you how to recall them. And even if you don't win the election recall, you make it necessary for them to have to fight for their lives in the political arena all the time. Where before they had free reign. They was the only one there because the masses were not participating in a particular way, and the masses have been intimidated about participating in a particular way, and we helping the people know you can come into this and you can fight for it, and we will not be driven underground. Huey P. Newman was absolutely correct when he says revolutionary never voluntarily goes under the ground, never voluntarily go underground. I mean, so something may happen that drives us underground, but we have to fight to maintain this democratic space because they try to shut it down all the time. People like to talk about, and this guy who I had a lot of respect for, a couple of people in the 1960s, they were talking about how they had to vote at one time for Obama as opposed to Cynthia McKinney, who was then a Green Party candidate, because it was like fascism, like Germany in the 1930s. And this is and at the time they were talking about McCain was a proto-fascist, et cetera, but what they forgot is that in this country in the 1950s, there was almost like fascism. You had the McCarthy era. It was driving people underground. They even executed a white couple during that period of time, calling them communists and stuff like that. And so these people wanted us to be engaged in fighting against fascism and electing this guy. But what kept the system open was not a fight against fascism. It was Fannie Lou Hamer. It was the struggle of black people throughout this country. That's the thing that kept everything open. That's where the democracy happened in this country. So while a lot of white people and leftists, et cetera, cowering and talking about fight for fascism and vote for the good white person, black people in this country throughout the South, most oppressive sector in the country, there was no fascism in the world as bad as what was happening to us in Mississippi and Florida and Louisiana and all these other, and New York City for that matter. It was black people who waged this struggle for our freedom that kept everything open and everybody benefited from it except us in the final analysis. So anyway, so Baron, Baraka, Yeshitela, Baruti, Akile and Nai, that was an incredible panel. And then we had Comrade Dr. Masamela Odom, who was over this, the Black Community Control of Police working group, and was talking about why you got to do that, why you got to fight for that, because that's an anti-colonial demand. When you say Black Community Control of Police, that's not an abstract discussion. That is Black Community Control of Police as opposed to the colonizers controlling the police. That's a decolonizing demand. Bring the masses of people into political life. Say, if there's going to be somebody with a gun in the community, and whoever it is, it's going to be under the authority of this community. This community, black people should decide who's going to be walking around our community with guns and not. Black people decide who should go to jail or not. Black people should have some rights here, and that will affect this mysterious problem that they seem not to have any answers for. We don't know why this is happening. You know, all the people in jail seem to be black. We don't know why. It ain't got nothing to do with the fact they were enslaved. Ain't got nothing to do with Jim Crow. Ain't got nothing to do with they don't have any economic life or conditions. It's just black people, this mystery that's out there. And so Masamela said, Black Community Control Police. We take the mystery out of the damn thing. That's a democratic demand. How more democratic can you be, you know? That's what you say you believe in. So we had, Sister Betty Davis. Sister Betty Davis. You cannot say enough about this warrior woman. I'm telling you. And everybody knows it. And Sister Lisa say they might be related because her name is, the name, they got the same slave masters. And you got Lisa Davis and Betty Davis. Y'all probably on the same plantation. Y'all probably, yeah. And knowing the both of y'all probably broke out. Y'all probably and took some casualties, made some And Comrade Sayero, who was there representing the magnificent Belinda Parker Brown out of Louisiana. And Louisiana, we got to tell the story of Louisiana. I was just talking to Comrade Charles Barron a moment ago. That he's got to be connected with Belinda Parker Brown and the Louisiana United International, because the world needs to know what's happening in Louisiana. I'm gonna say the same thing, Brother Cam. When you're talking about this tour you're on around reparation, look at Louisiana. Look at Sister Belinda Parker Brown as a place that you might want to go through as well. And because she does work. Again, she's in the trenches. Betty Davis is in the trenches. You can't hear about any kind of thing that's happening, going on and concerning black people and freedom, not just black people, freedom that Betty Davis will not get there. If it's possible to be there, she's gonna be there. And Sayero, who is in Michigan, and he represented her there. And then Comrade Louisa Kinshasa, who's in exile from Congo, living in London now, and he presented as well on anti-colonial struggle for democracy and how that looks in Africa and how that looks in Europe and other places around the world. He's got this brilliant analysis of the political arena and how it's configured right now in the world and how it's changing. And then, we spoke about the National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination that we worked a year to win. And African people throughout the various states, we had something like 11 statewide conventions for Africans to approve this National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination. We are consolidating this consciousness and political position around African people. It's not just out there doing your thing, it's the struggle for self-determination. It's the struggle against colonialism. And we had this thing happening, people voted on it in 11 different states. And then we had a state, a national conference, a pre-convention conference in Philadelphia. And then in July, I think it was July of 2000, what was it? 19, was it? We had the national conference convention in Washington, D.C., where we adopted that. And we dealt with the working group on education, Sister Betty Davis. We had Ralph Pointer talking about political prisons, and then he had with him Comrade Razikan Wali Shahid, and dealing with freeing political prisoners, because that's part of the National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination. Black Community Control the Police Working Group was presented. Healthcare Working Group, Sister Lisa Davis, who has just been phenomenal, just in terms of dealing with this whole issue of health, this healthcare, which is a commodity in the whole capitalist, rotten capitalist system. You don't get healthcare. You get this commodity. It's a capitalist commodity, and in fact, it works against their interests if you're healthy. Now, what happens to the whole industry, pharmaceutical and all these other things, if you're healthy? It's like the undertaker. You know, you live and the undertakers starve. And so, you know, they will start poisoning the water just to make sure somebody's dying so they can feed their families. The same thing works. That's the way it works with the so-called healthcare system. They keep us in states of ill repair so that the system itself can generate profit. And then we had Comrade Daoud Khalid, who spends all his life. He's over the Reparations Working Group. Previously, Brother Cam Howard handled that working group. And Daoud Khalid and again, Comrade Sayero representing Louisiana United International, they're dealing with this issue of, in Louisiana, they had a situation where you could, a person could be convicted even for a capital crime with only 10 voting for conviction out of a 12-person jury. And they didn't have to have a unanimous jury. And after they fought so hard to get the unanimous jury, then and have it declared unconstitutional, even at the Supreme Court, then the thousands of African people who locked up in the prison behind the 10 being convicted and with 10 people, they won't release them. After they've already declared that it was unconstitutional, they're still rotting in prisons. And so you have unanimous is not enough. Comrade Sayero speaking to that. So it was just an extraordinary a day on yesterday, and I was supposed to sum it up, and I probably did the presentation as long as all of them combined that just happened on yesterday. But thank you. Let's go to get started today. It's going to be an incredible day, and I know a lot of people doing Easter stuff, and so it'll be probably in person. There'll probably a few people early on today. And I don't know how that's going to be reflected by people who are participating via social media. But I think it's absolutely correct for us to carry this thing out the way we've done up to now. Let's move it forward. Uhuru.